So after 3, going on 4, going on 5 months of using my Nikon Z50, I'm using it right now if y'all can't tell, is I wanted to give you my honest, real-world opinions of this camera. I've used it for a couple of my own client shoots. I've used it for the last, I'd say 12 to 30 YouTube videos that you're looking at. And I'm going to talk about, do I regret this? Was the Nikon Z50 the worst decision of my life? Or was it a good replacement to my Nikon D5200? Stay tuned, I'm going to tell you the pros, the cons, and everything I love and hate about this camera. So if you're new here, my name is Peter. What up? I'm a content creator on the internet. And if you found me, you probably found this channel through my hundreds and hundreds of Nikon D5200 videos, where I made exclusively my Nikon D5200. I've used this for client videos, and it wasn't until 4 months ago where I was like, maybe it's finally time that I upgraded. And I decided to pick something that was still within the same family, but it still put me to a little familiar place. And the reason that I picked up the Nikon Z50 is it just made sense for me, especially using the F to Z adapter, which is this guy right here, which lets me put any of my Nikon D5200 lenses onto this Z mount body that you're looking at. Which means all the lenses that you see back here, whether it's my Sigma, you got my kit lens, you got my 35, I can put any of those lenses onto this Z50 and shoot them in 4K video. And if you haven't seen that yet, every single thing that I'm going to talk about, I've already made a video on it. Link in the description below if you want to check all those videos out, from me going with the 35, the F to Z, seeing how that looks in 4K. But enough yapping, right? So one of the reasons I wanted to get the Nikon Z50 is it was finally time for me to shoot in 4K. And if you know anything about the D5200, it doesn't shoot in 4K. It's a crop body sensor. You don't have 60 frames in 1080p. You have it in 720p. And it was an outdated camera for videos. Photos, you can still get away with it, but videos, it was getting out there in terms of getting rust, you know? And the good part about it, which I'm going to go into, is talking about the benefits of using the Z50, is ever since I bought the Z50, and you look at that unboxing and video, is that I haven't touched my D5200 since. And that is a good thing, because everything the D5200 does, the Nikon Z50 does, and even at a better level. So if you don't know yet, the Z50 is still an APS-C CMOS sensor at 20.9 megapixels, shoots in 4K as well as 1080p in 60 and even 120 frames slow motion. And what I really like about this camera is that it finally, Nikon decided to upgrade to its phase detection autofocus instead of its contrast detection, meaning there's no more of that pulse. And although Nikon is not known as autofocusing capabilities, as you can see, it's come a long way, and I've decided to pick that up. And what I really like about it is that its autofocus is pretty damn good, and it's better than my Sony RX Mark III 100, which is my little vloggy, which struggles in autofocus. Another reason why I picked up the Z50 and what I like about it, it is very compact. It is, I think, around 100 grams lighter than my D5200, especially if you consider putting on any sort of the big lenses like the 70 to 300. Having a lighter body means a lot, as well as one of the benefits of using the Z50 is that it is weather sealed. Yes, you have the flash, it does have a flash, but it doesn't let the Z50 be completely weather sealed, but it is weather sealed, whereas the D5200 is not. So another pro and the big selling point for me that sold me on the Z50 was the F to Z mount, which why I said it make most sense to me, because it let me use all of my Nikon lenses that I already invested in hundreds of dollars, so then I could just use this on my mirrorless Nikon. And because within my budget, the price of the Z50 can retail from $1,000, plus with the kit combo, that is a steal if you're looking for a budget camera, and I needed something to replace my D5200, and that was my solution. And so far, for the most part, for a standard B cam and what I'm doing in this YouTube studio / office, it's done its job. But there are some big cons that I'm going to talk about. So let's talk about the bad stuff, right? So what are the cons and disadvantages of using the Nikon Z50? Well, first thing I noticed coming from a D5200 user where I have literally 8 of the Nikon EL14A batteries. I have a bunch of these guys. A bunch of these guys, right? Those batteries lasted quite a bit of time. But then again, I was only recording in 1080p. And the first thing I noticed about using the Nikon Z50 is that one battery is definitely not enough and it'll barely get you through one shoot. So my biggest complaint about the Nikon Z50 is that its battery life. Because it is a compact body, Nikon had to essentially smaller the case, the housing for the battery, and I wish, maybe somehow they could have still stuck with the EN14A batteries, but unfortunately they did not, and they had to use a completely newer battery that suits the Z50, and the battery life on that, if you're shooting 4K video, it's not that great. You're looking at, I think it's like 300 shots if you're just strictly photos, but for me, using this as primarily a video camera as well as photos occasionally, is that the battery life is not good, and you're probably looking at investing to at least 3 to maybe even 5 of these Nikon Z50 batteries for if you were to do this for a full video shoot. Another con or negative about this being a hybrid camera is that there is no headphone jack. And with its competitors being like the A6600, there's things like you have audio monitoring, and unfortunately the Z50 does not, where if you want to look and get an audio jack so you can monitor your audio, you're looking at its bigger brothers like the Z6 and the Z7 as well as the Z5. Last but not least, the biggest disadvantage of me actually using the Z50, not in comparison to the D5200, but just in general, is that yes, if you have a good light source, it is well lit, the subject, wherever you're filming, the autofocus and its ability to change its sensitivity as well how fast it tracks is great. But, a big but, is that once you take a little bit of a light away, or maybe there is a reflection in the mirror, or you're wearing glasses, the Nikon Z50 does struggle a lot in autofocus capabilities. Yes, right now the autofocus is fine, but when I use this specifically for nighttime, or there was a reflection you see in that video, links in the description below, where I use the Nikon Z50 for street photography, or if I just walked around in my downtown core with my gimbal, put this on kit lens, it struggled a lot at night, especially if I double tap my subject to track it. It had a lot of hunting issues, especially when I used the F to Z mount, and when I used the F to Z mount, the autofocus of the Z50, it worsened. And that was one of the biggest cons that I've seen after going on 4 months of using the Z50 and actually using it. There's a lot of people out there that just use it for a day and they're like, okay, I'm gonna make a review about it. But this is my honest review where I made actually client videos with my Z50, and it struggles a lot when it comes to low light capabilities. But at the same time, to have it all wrapped up, is that you're paying for what you get, and it is a budget crop sensor body. You're looking at under $1,000. This is still a steal, especially if I use this just for YouTube videos. It is a solid B cam. So let's talk about who's it for and who is it not for. So I highly recommend this camera. Who's it for? If you have an already existing D5000 line, or 7000 or 3000, especially if you have a D3400, is like the Z50 is a great upgrade, especially within that price range. And the pros of that is that you still get to use all of your older lenses with the F to Z mount. And who is it not for? If you're looking for this to be primarily your main camera and you're a professional videographer or photographer, then you probably want to use this strictly as a B cam, not so much as an A cam. I myself, I'm eventually looking into upgrading to the Nikon Z6 or the Z7, or possibly even the Sony A7C for its compactability. And if you're looking within the market for a budget price range of a crop body that shoots mirrorless 4K, and you don't want to spend more than, let's say, 1200 USD, then the Nikon Z50 is the perfect guy for you. But because of that, you're in the price range. You have to look at things like, do you need super tacked sharp autofocus, especially in low light? Then you're more likely to go to a full frame camera instead of a crop body. And that was my overall honest opinions and reviews for it. Yes, it's a love-hate relationship with my Nikon Z50, but I will, of course, continue to use it. Is it a pass or fail in my books? It is definitely a pass, but you have to consider all the things like I said before. Do you plan to make money from the Z50? Do you want to do this just for leisure and fun? Definitely a great vlogging camera, and it's small and compact, but also be aware of its autofocus and things that it's missing, like a headphone jack, its battery life, and its overall its ability to not shoot, let's say, in N-Log. And that was my overall review. What do you guys think about it? Leave a comment below. And are you a fan of the Z50 footage? And one of the reasons that I picked it up, it served my purpose, right? It replaced my D5200. I don't even use that guy anymore, even though I miss it and it still holds a fond place in my heart, is that I got a 4K camera and I'm still within the Nikon lineup. So if you watched this far, smash that thumbs up button, leave a comment below, and if you want to check out any of my in-detail reviews and like depth about my Nikon Z50 footage, link in the description. I have a bunch of videos on this by now, and check out my resources where I actually have a crash course where I help you 1 hour with how you use your Nikon to the best of its abilities, even if it's something like entry, like a D3400 or a Nikon D5500. My name is Peter. You're watching a Broke Visionary Collective, where we all start with nothing, but you can always create something. Cheers, guys.